Good evening, everyone. And seeing this year we're celebrating Burgeo's bicentennial, or the 200th anniversary of its settling, we thought we'd try something a little different. We're going to test your knowledge about your hometown with a short Burgeo quiz. Most of the answers will just be one or two words or dates. There are no long answers. So sit back for another little while with your paper and pen. This quiz is only meant for entertainment, and if you learn a little more about Burgeo, then that's fine too. After the quiz is completed, we'll give you the answers to see how you did. Before we actually begin, we just want to give you a little information on the very early history of our town. The origin of the name Burgeo is somewhat obscure. Some historians claim that the name is Portuguese, since the Burgeo Islands were discovered in 1520 by a Portuguese explorer named Joás Fagundes. He made reference to our many islands as virginal or barren, having frequented the Virgin Islands. A Portuguese map dated from 1628 refers to our area as Burgeo Islands, which was later changed to Burgeo and of course afterwards to Burgeo. However, another theory for the origin of our town's name suggests that it is French. It may have been derived from the French Bras de Jean, or the arms of John. Still, another theory is that a French captain once explained that the round islands of Burgeo are les bongrios, the buds, while Ramia is les rameaux, the branches. Whatever the origin, the earliest reference to any population of Burgeo is given for 1764, which gives the combined population of Burgeo, Port Basque, and Harbour-le-Cou a total of 34 people. The first individual reference to Burgeo itself is in 1802, when our population was 23 people. The first 20 questions deal with names of individuals, families, or businesses. There are 50 questions altogether that deal with anything from Burgeo's early history up to the present day. So if you're ready for the next half hour or so with your paper and pen, or if you just want to play along mentally, we'll begin. Now George is going to do the first 10 questions.
The first question, perhaps appropriately, have to do with the Anglican Church, and you are to name the Anglican minister who spent the biggest part of his life at Burgeo from the late 1840s to the 1890s. Number 2. The name of the first English-speaking settlers who arrived at Burgeo sometime between 1760 and 1790, but later moved to Rose Blanche. Not sure if that was a good move or not, Sam. Number 3. The family name of the first recorded English-speaking settlers who settled at Burgeo with a very large family in 1796 and remained there. Number 4. Methodist, as the United Church preacher and teacher, who worked at Burgeo from 1888 to 1915, a total of 27 years. Everybody stuck around in those days.
That's right.
Number 5. Name of the firm that once had large premises at present day hold room. Number 6. The first merchant to settle at Burgeo in 1835 and built premises at Upper Burgeo. Number 7. A little bit more recent. The first mayor of Burgeo was Number 8. Burgeo's longest-term mayor, and still a resident of our town. And number 9. The oldest family name, and still quite common, of first settlers at Upper Burgeo. Number 10. First minister to settle at Burgeo in 1842. Now, Sam, it's over to you.
Okay. Well, I'll do numbers 11 to 20 inclusive. Number 11. Well-known Canadian who once lived in Burgeo during the early and mid-60s, but left after local controversy. Number 12. Either one of the original councillors still living at Burgeo who helped incorporate Burgeo in 1950. Number 13. A famous American Western author who visited Burgeo during the 1930s. Number 14. A famous magistrate at Burgeo who wrote the vital statistics of Burgeo from 1860 to 1925. Number 15. One-time mayor of Burgeo and former owner of local fish plant. Number 16. Burgeo's first and longest running taxi was operated by whom? Number 17. Native historian and local teacher for 40 years at Burgeo. Number 18. Well-known postmaster and telegraph operator for 40 years at Burgeo. Number 19. Old family name of Burgeo associated with the former Burgeo Co-op and other business properties including Furby's Point. And number 20. The island joined to Smalls Island is also named after another business. Named what? Okay. Now, George, you can take the next 10.
Well, Sam, there's a lot of history in them there pages, I can tell you that. The next 10 questions relate to dates and decades of Burgeo's history. I reached back in a few decades.
Okay.
Number 21. In what year did Burgeo become incorporated as a town? Became a town council. And number 22, important year in Burgeo's history for sure. In what year was our cottage hospital built? And number 23, in what year was Burgeo finally connected to the Trans-Canada Highway, thus ending our isolation? Except when the road is blocked with snow or washed out.
That's good timing there, George.
Yes. And number 24, our famous come home year, the year we had all the fog, was held in what year? And number 26, the year our present library was built.
That's 25.
Number 25.
Yeah. Now you just said 26.
Yes. Well, now it's number 26. The decade associated with the construction of our present-day RCMP detachment. That's not the one they're building up by the school, is it, Sam?
No.
And number 27. The first bank to be established at Burgeo was in what year? Only yesterday I read that up in the bank. So I know the answer, think. And number 28. The introduction of electricity, water system, telephones, and local fire department was all during what decade? I don't know what decade, but we had a Liberal government. Now,
Leave politics out of this.
sorry about that. Number 29. In what decade did officials such as doctors, magistrates, and customs officers first settle in Burgeo? And finally, number 30. Burgeo's first modern fish plant was originally owned by Fishery Products, and it was established in what year? Okay, Sam?
Okay. I'll do the next 10, and the next 6 are place names around Burgeo. Number 31. The largest of all the Burgeo Islands, on which the bulk of the population live, although no longer considered an island, is named what? Number 32. The high hill in the center of town, named after mint-flavored berries once found there, is called blank. Number 33. The highest hill of all in the Burgeo area. Number 34. Smalls Island was once called blank Island. Number 35. An island named by Captain Cook in 1756. Number 36. The place name Messrs or Messrs is probably an adaptation or a misspelling of what name? Number 37. Evidence such as buttons, pieces of iron, etc., suggests that the earliest settlers who lived here were of what nationality? Number 38. Burgeo's oldest business, still operating from the same location for 100 years. Actually, it was established in 1890. Number 39. One of the few remaining landmarks of Burgeo, built in 1876. Perhaps the oldest prominent building around town. Number 40. Burgeo's monthly newspaper, now defunct, that was published about 20 years ago. Okay, George, the rest is yours.
Okay, thank you. Number 41. A Lunenburg schooner built and owned by a Burgeo firm that disappeared with all its crew in 1943. Number 42. A fortune schooner wrecked in 1928 behind Heria near Smalls Island. And number 43. What former building once occupied the site of present-day Nathan Rose's store? Number 44. Local name given to the old building that was once located between present-day Scotia Bank and hydro plant. Number 45. Present-day Midtown Limited was a building originally owned by Fishery Products and used by them for what purpose? Number 46. What building once occupied the same site as present-day Parish Hall? It's the Anglican Parish Hall. You fellas don't call yours Parish Hall here, or what?
No, we're not parishes.
Oh, it was the Anglican Parish Hall. Number 47. What building once stood on the site between Federal Building and Parsons Law Office? Number 48. What building once occupied present-day triangular site located near United Church? And number 49. How many churches were once located at Upper Burgeo and Sandbanks? And finally, number 50. Burgeo's very first post office was located in what present-day building? Now, Sam?
Okay, well, that's it for the quiz. We're not quite sure if we read them too fast or too slow, but we'll find out how you did. We're going to give you the answers, and we're going to give you the answers in groups of 10, the same way we called out the questions. So, George, if you want to take the first 10 answers to the first 10 questions you called out. Okay?
Do I read the questions?
No,
again?
just the answers I think would be sufficient.
Okay. Number 1. The Anglican minister who spent most of his life here in Burgeo, as a priest anyway, was Cunningham. Number 2. The name of the first English-speaking settlers to arrive in Burgeo, but later moved to Rose Blanche, was Curry. Number 3, and the first family name to be recorded, that's the English-speaking settlers now, and stayed here, was Matthews. And number 4, the Methodist or United Church preacher and teacher who worked for 27 years here in Burgeo was Curtis. And number 5, the name of the business firm that once had large premises at the present day Old Room was Clements. By the way, where's Old Room, Sam?
Well, out on what we call the beach area, you know, where the new hospital houses were built. That was Clements area.
And I've always been fascinated since I've been there in Burgeo about the beach.
Mm-hmm.
I've never ever seen the beach.
Well, actually, probably 25 or 30 years ago, if you lived here, and we won't hold that against you because you're not a native Burgeonian. There were rocks right on the edge there where the houses are built. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, the beach rocks.
The beach rocks. Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer to number 5, if I missed it, was Clements. And number 6, the first merchant at Upper Burgeo was John Cox. Now another question. Where's Upper Burgeo?
I didn't know I was being tested here, Nate.
Yeah, but I'm not from Burgeo, you see.
Okay. Well, Upper Burgeo consisted of present-day Sandbanks, but also Upper Burgeo Island just across the Barsway there. It's Upper Burgeo. Because there were two parts, Burgeo, Upper Burgeo, and Lower Burgeo. This was Lower Burgeo down here.
And number 7, the first mayor of Burgeo was Harney Johnson. And number 8, the Burgeo's longest term mayor, and she's still living here in our town, was Dr. Han Calder. And number 9, the oldest family name, and still quite common, I guess here in Burgeo, it says here, but Upper Burgeo,
But that's where they settled first.
yes, was Henderson. I thought it would be Matthews, you know, but Henderson.
The Matthews settled at Lower Burgeo.
Mm-hmm.
The Andersons at Upper Burgeo.
Yes. And number 10, and the first minister to settle in Burgeo, and by the way, it was Church of England, I guess, although the United came here first, you know, Sam.
I'm aware of that, George.
Was Blackmore. Okay?
Okay, well, I'll give the answers to numbers 11 to 20. Number 11, the Canadian who lived here in the mid-60s, after some controversy, fairly Mowat. Number 12, either one of the original councillors who helped incorporate Burgeo in 1950, Mr. Dan MacDonald or Mr. Chris Matthews. Number 13, famous American Western author, was Zane Grey. Number 14, the famous magistrate who lived here from the 1860s up to 1925, was Joseph Small, or just Magistrate Small. Number 15, one-time mayor and former owner of the local fish plant, Mr. Spencer Lake. Number 16, Burgeo's first and longest running taxi was Shorts Taxi. Number 17, our local historian and teacher for 40 years, Mr. Aubrey Matthews. Number 18, the well-known postmaster and telegraph operator, Mr. Banfield. Number 19, the old family business associated with the former Burgeo Co-op and other properties, Moulton's. And number 20, the island joined to Smalls Island was called after Samways. Okay? So George, you can take the next 10.
Yes, number 21 has to do with our town being incorporated. That's when Burgeo got its town council, and that was back in 1950. And number 22, our cottage hospital was built back in 1935. And probably in this decade we'll get a new one.
Hopefully.
Number 23, the Burgeo Highway was, I was going to say completed, but we were linked with the Trans-Canada Highway, Sam, in 1979. And number 24, Burgeo's first come home year was fairly recently, 1988. And number 25, our library was built in Canada's centennial year, 1967. And number 26, the construction of our present-day RCMP detachment was back in the 1950s. And number 27, the first bank to be established in Burgeo was way back in 1916. And number 28, Burgeo got electricity, a water system, telephones, and a local fire department. Indeed, it was a very good decade for Burgeo, and that all happened back in 1960. And number 29, the decade that brought the doctors, magistrates, and custom officers to Burgeo was 1850. In the 1850s, that is.
Yeah.
And number 30, Burgeo's first modern fish plant, operated by Fishery Products, was back in the 1940s. Okay, Sam?
Okay, number 31, the largest of all the Burgeo Islands, where the bulk of us still live, Grandy Island. Grandy. Number 32, the high hill in the center of town, Maiden T Hill. In case you're wondering about the spelling of that, Maidentea. But we won't hold your spelling against you. Number 33, the highest hill of all in the Burgeo area, is Richard's Head. Number 34, the original name for Smalls Island was Slade's Island. Slades. Number 35, the island named by Captain Cook in 1756 was Eclipse. We just locally call it Eclipses, but there was eclipse of the sun at the time. Number 36, Missers or Messrs is probably a misspelling of the word Mercers. And Mercers apparently was a very old business establishment. Number 37, the earliest settlers of all were the French. Number 38, Burgeo's oldest business and still operating for 100 years, Central Stores. Number 39, perhaps the oldest prominent building left around town, built in 1876, the Orange Lodge. And number 40, Burgeo's monthly newspaper that was printed about 20 years ago, the Lamplighter. Okay, George, you can take the rest of them.
One question though, Sam.
Okay.
This fellow Grandy, this island here, this where we're living now is Grandy's Island. We have a Grandy's Brook.
Couldn't find anything, the name itself. You're thinking about who it was called after.
Yes,
No, I couldn't find anything. I'm not sure if people do know, but you're right. It's the same name, Grandy's River, Grandy Island. Yes, but who Mr. Grandy was, I have no idea.
And by the way, Captain James Cook visited my hometown too. There's a cave in the hill down there called Cook's Hole.
I see.
You can get up there, you can't get down. Okay, number 41. A Lunenburg built schooner and owned here in Burgeo by one of the fish firms and disappeared with all its crew back in 1943 was Beatrice Beck. And number 43, a schooner from Fortune that was wrecked out behind Smalls Island back in 1928 was the Russell Lake. And I think only one man
Yes.
was
Just
saved.
right. It was a Mr. Day, who I understand the father of Mrs. Sarah Melbourne.
Yes.
Yes.
I found out that when I organized that antique display that
Oh,
time.
yes.
Yes. Okay, and number 43, what former building once occupied the site of present-day Nathan Rose's store? And it was the courthouse. They had a courthouse back then. They had a lot back then, Sam. Didn't cost much to operate it, I suppose. And number 44, the name to an old building that was once located between present-day Scotia Bank and the hydro plant, and it was the ice house. It's got ice out of the pond, I suppose.
That's right. That's not too many years that was taken down. Probably 25 years ago, I suppose, or 30 years ago.
I was thinking it may have been what they called the whole barn, but that's
No,
outside.
that was a different building altogether.
And number 45 is an interesting one. Present-day Midtown Limited was originally used as a glue factory. Burgeo had two industries then.
Well, this was part of the fish plant. I
Yeah.
tried to find a bit of information on that. Probably you're going to have to go to somebody who knows a bit more about it, but It was used some connection with the fish plant. I'm not exactly sure what the glue factory was used for.
Yeah, well, I think I could have given you a little bit of information on that because I have the first yearbook that was ever published
Yes.
here in the school, and I believe Clarence Moulton was the editor. He had taken grade 11 that year, and I think he wrote an article about it.
Oh, that was probably back in 47, 48, I think.
Maybe
Yeah.
somewhere around there, yes.
Very good.
So number 46 is the building that once occupied the same site as present-day Parish Hall was the Anglican School. And number 47, the building that once stood on the site between Federal Building and Parsons Law Office, must have been a sad place for a lot of people, the Temperance Hall. Went to St. Pierre a lot then, I guess, did they? And number 48, what building once occupied the present-day triangular site and near the United Church, and it was the old library. And number 49, how many, the number of churches that was once located in Upper Burgeo and the sandbanks was 3. Must have been a lot of people up there at that time.
Yeah. Well, that of course was over, you know, a period of years.
Oh,
that they
I
did
see.
3, yeah.
Yes. They went through a lot of churches.
Yeah.
didn't they? And finally, number 50, Burgeo's very first post office was located in where the Central stores are today.
Well,
Central?
yes, actually, it was part of the Central Stores itself. The post office was located within the Central Stores.
I want to ask you where Central stores. I didn't know if that was the co-op. That was the co-op they took down.
Right. Well, the Central Stores is still there
Yes.
today. The same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam.
Okay. Well, now we'll see what kind of score you had. We did make up a code. So if you scored anywhere from 40 to 50 correct, that's excellent. You're a true Burgeonian. If you scored between 30 and 39 correct, that's still good. If you scored from 25 to 29 correct, well, you still have a fair knowledge of Burgeo. Now, if you scored 24 and below, I'm going to leave you with one question. Where have you been living all your life? Anyway, we hope you enjoy this little test. Thank you for watching. Good night.